When the Cold War was beginning, Hollywood was miles ahead in producing anti-communist propaganda. From public service announcements to full-length feature films, the idea of the communist threat seeping into the suburbs and modern cities of the US was in full swing, up to the fall of the USSR. After 9/11, many films turned toward their attention to targeting terrorism through countless films about the Iraq and Afghanistan war. At the time of the production and writing of Dark Knight Rises, the Occupy movement was happening at several universities in major cities. Occupy was a response to the economic recession that plagued the US after the 2008 financial crisis. The movement claimed that this was an issue created by the 1%, the top Americans who possessed the most wealth, and directly affected the 99%, everyone who was not in the 1% income bracket. Much of the media blamed Occupy for being idealistic, a movement that ultimately meant nothing, and is simply a blip in human history. Some have claimed the movement had a violent radical edge to it, such as Mitchell Sleibe of K2 Intelligence, who said, "The assumption is that the majority of these people there were peaceful protesters, but there is a more radical fringe element to the group, and there is a concern that at some point they might turn to violence if they weren't accomplishing their political aims." This is what The Dark Knight has culminated into, a bourgeois fear of not only Islamic terrorism, but proletarian terrorism. The Dark Knight Rises takes place some years after the first, in which Bruce Wayne has been holed up in his mansion as the city of Gotham has the lowest crime rate in years thanks to the Harvey Dent Act. That is, until corrupt city officials tried to make deals with Selina Kyle and Bane to enrich themselves, which ultimately backfires as Bane created his revolution. He frees all of Gotham's criminals as they take over the city for a month, then Batman and the entire Gotham police force stop them, and Batman retires for good. The perspective in which the film takes in showing the fear, this warning of proletarian terrorism, is represented by Bane and Selina Kyle. Bane is a disciple of Ra's al Ghul, Batman's nemesis in the film Batman Begins, who seeks to bring balance to the world by obliterating Gotham. Bane acts as a benefactor to the people of Gotham, announcing that he will liberate them from Gotham's corrupting forces, and gives them permission to take back the city. This is a jab at movements like Occupy, that challenge the bourgeois status quo, that simply these movements are seemingly for the people, but are just as rife with corruption and opportunism as political pundits are. The conclusion the film makes about left movements is they are bound to bring chaos and destruction, like kidnapping star market traders, and releasing vicious criminals into streets, and executing the rich just because. This is a mantra espoused by many mainstream movies commenting on terrorism like Zero Dark 30, American Sniper, and 13 Hours. They all dehumanize or are deemed to be these extremist terrorists that want a world without officers, good politicians, and the world's Batmans. As if to say the only objective any of these progressive movements is to simply create comic book villain chaos. Bane is simply the straw man to this argument. The character of Selina Kyle is in some way representative of the common people, easily swayed to this revolutionary rhetoric, but also has the desire to stay safe and secure in a crime-ridden city. Selina is indifferent to the plight of crime-ridden Gotham, simply doing what she can to survive by stealing and selling to the highest bidder. But as she says to Bruce at the charity gala, she does not stand on the shoulders of those below us, meaning that she refuses to take part in the domination of the proletariat, unlike Bruce and the rest of his rich friends. However, by the time Bane's revolution rolls around, she helps Batman to defeat Bane simply because she thinks that safety and security is more valuable than ending economic inequality. The only reason we do root for Selina Kyle is because she is honest in a world of hypocrites and liars, as she chooses the side of Batman. That is, you root for her because you root for Batman. Bruce Wayne, across the entire trilogy, is the epitome of law and order. He fights off Ra's al Ghul, the Joker, and Bane, saves millions of lives, and gives back to Gotham, like funding his orphanage and being a part of a project to replace fossil fuels. Bruce Wayne is the well-meaning hero, and that is why we are supposed to support him. Yet, as we see throughout the course of each film, Gotham still has crime and the police force keeps cracking down harder and harder. In Dark Knight Rises, Bane's revolution is a creation of a multitude of crimes, and because Batman intends to protect the law, despite the fact he has no official authority whatsoever, he goes to fight. Again, a trope that is seen throughout countless anti-communist and anti-terrorism films. both communism and terrorism are an invitation to inspire lawlessness and chaos, this must be stopped by an American hero. Whether it's a group of high schoolers who have no official authority, an honorable soldier, or a crime-fighting vigilante who dresses as a bat, it is in the spirit of this bourgeois sense of justice that these threats to the American people must be stopped. The Dark Knight Rises is a part of the long tradition of propaganda films disguised as cheap entertainment. So long as Hollywood can bank on famous names and brands that capitalize on the idea that social movements are the real threat to the interests of the working class, these movies will continue to be made and the ideal will permeate throughout capitalist culture.
Okay, now that Dan is gone, I'll review the actual movie Bravo Nolan was trying to direct before he was forced to make the post-credits scene capitalist propaganda that was The Dark Knight Rises. You see, Plane Scene is perhaps the greatest anime film of all time, and is indeed the most revolutionary. Plane Scene takes place after the events of Dunkirk, when Big Guy Bane's plan to shoot down Nazi planes with no survivors ends up with him getting caught. To no one's surprise, Bane is later taken into the CIA, which is led by a character none other than CIA. Well, at this point, we're still all opportunistically supporting Nazism as lesser evil than communism. What they do not know is that this is part of Bane's perfect opportunity to take down the driving forces behind imperialism and the enabler of fascist regimes. Bane is armed with his masks, which he used in Dunkirk, which made people care who he was. And that person was a woke anti-fascist instead of another drone, which is an ironic part on the choice of Bravo Nolan, as the mask conceals Bane's face. Thanks to his well-thought-out 5-year plan that purposely involved getting caught, Bane is able to overpower CIA and is able to crash yet another plane with no survivors in a heroic act of anti-imperialism. However, CIA may not be dead, as he is clearly capable of surviving plane crashes, since he feels the need to shoot people before throwing them out of the plane. The anti-imperialism of Plane Scene is also debatable, as it is clear that CIA was intended to be the hero of the entire 5-minute movie, and perhaps even the post-credits scene of The Dark Knight Rises, before he was removed and replaced with Batman. Indeed, it may be possible that Bravo Nolan was commenting on America's foreign policy, which involves screwing over everyone, even itself. And congratulations, America, in times like this, you get yourself caught.